3-0. Dignitas 3 games up on Space Station. Gaming Space Station did reverse sweep Dignitas at the LA Major best of 5. Version 1 don't want to go all the distance with the club. That was a clean play there. Lost, just diving into the play, couldn't get goal. Side torment.
Look at this. It's 2 challenges every time. The club are so good at recovering, but they always get summoned back.
Okay.
Boomer! One side to the other, coast to coast. Torment doubles up his goals.
This shot just absolutely flew into the net. Torment smashes it. Notice in the opening, it looks like the 3rd man for the club.
Now that Torment has announced his retirement from the Rocket League scene in 2023, I think it's very timely that we go back and look at the incredible career that this player had. First of all, have to honor him as a world champion. Not only that in Season 6 with Cloud9, but also the world champion MVP. That to me is just such an elite title that so few RLCS pros hold. And he earned that with his performance, especially in day 3 of that historic lower bracket run. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The longevity of Torment's career in RLCS is really what has to be highlighted here. From starting on 2016, being involved in the scene in North America since Season 2, all the way up to his version 1 experience, attending 3 majors and a world championship again. So few players can perform at the top level like Torment did, and from end to end, it's just such an impressive career.
So Torment is probably one of the most interesting people in Rocket League, and it's for a number of reasons. Not only is he a former world champion, but it also feels like he's one of the veterans that kind of survived the new wave of Rocket League, if that makes sense. He's a guy who's been around and done pretty much everything. He's won LANs, he's won regional competitions, he has won pretty much everything. Like I said, former world champion, doesn't really get better than that. So Torment kind of is him. If you want to look at a guy who has elongated his career beyond compare, Torment is the guy to look at, whether it's the World Championship with Cloud9, whether it is his impact in turning version 1 into a well-respected roster, not just a roster that was good, but a really respected one with all 3 pieces of the puzzle kind of coming together at the right moments. I think Torment is honestly one of the GOATs for really all time, and people don't really talk about him enough because maybe he's not the flashiest player, or maybe not the player that always takes the most attention, but he deserves attention. For the way that he's played, for the legacy that he's leaving behind as he now retires from Rocket League, yeah, Torment deserves all the praise in the world. Truly one of the best to ever touch this game.
Rocket League to me at first was like just a fun hobby to just come home and like play, but now it's a lot bigger and it's just something I'm passionate about and want to get really good at and prove myself in. My name is Kyle Storer and I go by Torment, and I'm a defensive player for Cloud9. I originally started playing games with my dad. He's been really into games since he was young. He used to play like old Counter-Strike and like World of Warcraft when he was younger, and starting when I was growing up, and eventually we got like a PS3 and like played Rock Band, and he introduced me to that, and eventually got Rocket League. He also plays it and he's pretty into it as well.
First of all, to talk about Torment and Cloud9, you gotta start with the Muffin Men, the way that Gimmick, Torment, and Squishy Muffins first started, winning DreamHack Atlanta 2017, and then Cloud9 picking them up for their future success. And boy, was it a successful roster. 4 straight seasons of top 4 world championship performances. How many organizations can even say that? Namely, season 6, their world championship win, in which Torment was that world championship MVP, and the day 3 MVP, capping off that insane lower bracket run. The team lost their first round in a double elimination format and then defeated every single opponent towards the final and then won it all. Just incredible. So Torment cemented his legacy in RLCS forever after that event. However, you know, it doesn't always last, this success. So when it came to Season 8, instead of Cloud9 going to the World Championship, they actually performed so low in North America that they were at the Promotion-Demotion League afterwards, in which they did prevail, but it was interesting what Torment had noted during that time and why the roster was declining so much. There were a few different things. Number one being comms were not as great. Fireburner was the coach at the time and helped Torment understand that, you know, he's good at calming when he was off the ball, but on the ball would sort of forget to communicate with his team at that point in time. Talked about practicing more effectively. Torment spent more time in free play and scrims rather than like ranked 3v3s and really honing in the talent in the threes mode. But finally, there was more of a new wave of RLCS professionals coming into the scene. Torment would note the up-and-coming demo meta that was giving the Cloud9 roster at the time a lot of hardship. You had Arsenal on SSG. You had the Peeps roster picked up by Pittsburgh Knights, who were very bump and demo heavy, giving Cloud9 a really hard time with that. Torment admitted that they were kind of behind on that strategy.
Him on Cloud9 was something special. Torment's performance when he was on Cloud9 was really interesting because you take two players that are from kind of different spaces. Gimmick was a proven player. He had been around the block a little bit, but wasn't necessarily up there with the best of the best. He was in contention for it, but nobody really put him at that #1 spot or really necessarily talked about him at a world championship until was the addition of Squishy Muffins. Squishy's crazy. He has been a prodigy for a long time. People used to talk about Squishy potentially being the GOAT, going down as one of the greatest to ever do it. His legacy now with NRG has kind of fallen off, and it's a bit difficult for people to say that, but again, Squishy, one of the best to ever do it, man. He's been able to do so much in so many different spaces with so many different teams. So again, huge shout out to Squishy, but I think Torment was the glue that kind of kept that together. Again, he's a veteran. He had been around for so long, and he could bring new ideas and techniques into that team, which is they ended up winning the World Championship. He is one of the best thirds that has ever been around, and the third in Rocket League is basically like, not a goalie, but he's a defender for sure, and kind of took that legacy all the way to the finals and then all the way into this new era as well. Like I said, there are a sort of second coming of Rocket League players with hyper-mechanical players that have come out during sort of the quote-unquote COVID bubble when everybody was forced to play exclusively in online tournaments. Torment still survived that, despite the fact that him on Cloud9 was maybe a question mark to a lot of people. He kind of proved himself back then, and that was where he stapled. You know, he really, or I guess stamped his legacy overall and proved himself to be one of the best. Not somebody that was going anywhere anytime soon.
So with Torment joining version 1, I think this was an opportunity for this player to sort of adopt a new play style, new impact in RLCS. He sort of admitted this in his Twitlonger announcing his retirement, that after leaving Cloud9, he did understand that he was a bit behind on mechanics. So this was something he was grinding and preparing himself to be a more offensive player. And there were two things pushing that. Number one, Squishy Muffins leaving the roster, so there's kind of a gap that needs to be filled for offensive capabilities, even with the insertion of AXB on version 1. But number two, the demo meta as well. Torment acted as more of a pivot for Squishy Muffins and Gimmick to do their things, make their risks offensively, and Torment can sort of be that reliable defender. With the demo meta, that reliable defender is getting bumped, is getting demoed, is getting disrupted, and it forces the rotation to more so move more fluidly to escape those demos. So those two things really push Torment into a more offensive role for version 1. Now, that roster didn't really stick together for very long. AXB soon got subbed in for Calm, and then eventually Gimmick leaves for Oxygen Esports. Filling that room is Beast Mode. Now, the funny thing about this is you can't describe a more offensive, risk-taking duo than Beast Mode and Calm, forcing Torment back in this defensive position. I mean, you have Calm, who's the disruptor, forces bumps and demos wherever he can, and then Beast Mode, who is the golden striker of the team, basically the new Squishy Muffins, or at least what he was many seasons ago. So Torment sort of fell back into that defensive role, which I don't think was an awful thing. This is somewhere where he was very proficient in and was back to working on the mechanics and being at the level that he needed to be that golden defender.
Why did he join version 1? I think Torment joined version 1 because he kind of realized that he had to adapt his role. Gimmick and Squishy went elsewhere. Gimmick ended up going to, I think initially it was Oxygen Esports when he was first getting off that roster, if I'm not mistaken. And then Squishy ended up picking up by NRG, just off the back of them winning a world championship, I might add. So it's one of these things where Squishy really was one of the best of the best. Gimmick was one of the best of the best. Torment was one of the best of the best, but that team just kind of felt like they needed to go their separate ways. And I think that's kind of why he joined version 1. He saw a lot of potential. He saw a lot of up and coming, sort of players in Calm at that moment. It wasn't Beast Mode initially. And when they did get in Beast Mode, yeah, you can bet that Torment was happy that he had his pick there, because the legacy that these guys have left, they may have never been able to win a major or win a world championship while they were that trio, but they established themselves as some of the best competition that NA had to offer, and a lot of that was due to Torment. He was probably the best defensive third in all of North America. The saves he was making, the way he held that back line for that team was a lot of what allowed Calm and Beast Mode to run a front offense that was just almost unstoppable. So Torment kind of showed himself as a player that didn't need hyper mechanics, didn't necessarily need to adapt his playstyle. He just had to do what he wanted to do, and it worked out more than well enough. The man was a staple, like I said, as one of the most defensive players on the planet for a very long time. Up until he left version 1, I think everybody still kind of considered him one of the GOATs, and I still do even to this day. He might have left version 1, he may be retiring, but that man and the legacy that he has left at version 1 is going to be felt for many years to come.
My name is Kyle Storer, better known as Torment, and I'm 20 years old.
Torment is looking unbelievable. Torment! Oh! It's top right! Tommy! How does he find that every single time? It's for Torment to end it! Torment finishes the job!
But then you have Torment, who's just a defensive.
Oh, it's the same! He got Torment in the net!
Played underneath, doesn't need to. It's a perfect flick from Torment, bar down and in.
Get up, get low, it's game day!
That's what you guys were saying? Am I close?
Down. Down.
What am I touching? Is this a plate? What is this? No, that's bark. What? That's bark. It was kind of sweet though.
So Torment has written in his retirement speech that it's the right time for him to retire with his removal from the version 1 roster, and I'm not really one to disagree with that. Of course, you don't want to see someone who has such a long and fruitful legacy in RLCS to leave, but it's rather emblematic that Daniel is the one to fill in that roster in place of Torment's absence. It looks very much like out with the old and in with the new, and how can you argue with that when that's very much the nature of esports these days, especially in Rocket League, when all the crazy viral clips are infiltrated by the young guns like Daniel and the new young star Zen in Europe. There's no denying that Torment can be successful in RLCS, but if he agrees that it's the right time for him to step out, again, not the one to disagree with that. You know, for right now, Torment streams and still plays in tournaments with friends. I think it's great to still see him present in the scene, because there's a lot of people who still want him to be a part of the scene in whatever capacity that he's going to fill with whatever role he takes. And I know that whatever Torment does, the community in Rocket League will welcome that very much. And hey, we hope to see him still here. And congrats on an incredible legacy and career, Torment.
Is it the right time for Torment to retire? If I'm being honest, no. I get why he's retiring. Like I said, he's not the most mechanical player, and in a new wave of Rocket League where mechanics really are a hyper-fixated part of the game, I can understand why he feels like maybe he's not up to date and can't quite keep up with it, or if he can keep up with it, he may not just not want to put in the hours necessary. Because again, to train mechanics and do stuff like that, it really is a difficult task, especially considering the fact that, again, he was a defensive player, and in this modern day and age, defensive players are kind of dying out, unfortunately. It feels like it's a lot more about being able to play all around rather than just being a role player for a specific part of the field. So I don't necessarily think he should have retired. I would have loved to have seen him gone onto another roster, but I can also understand he goes out on a high. Version 1 was great. He left a legacy there that, like I said, may never be topped. So it's one of these things where Torment, he went out with grace. He recognizes the fact that, okay, maybe I'm falling a little bit behind the standards of what our playstyle right now. I might have been able to play with my personal playstyle, but what if I don't want to anymore? So Torment leaving sucks. It definitely hurts to see that, but I can understand why he retired. For what's next for him, I think Torment's probably going to go into coaching. I don't think he's going to be a caster. I don't think that he's going to look at the management. I think he's going to look to try and impart some of the wisdom that he has earned over years and years. Again, he's a veteran of the scene for a number of reasons. He's done so much to impact the entirety of this league, whether it's defensively or really just pushing boundaries when he was first getting his world championship. Torment has got wisdom to impart upon a ton of different players, and if he ends up sticking with version 1 and trying to maybe coach there, I could absolutely see it, trying to sort of show off to that new roster, hey, here's how the playstyle used to be, here's how you guys can adapt it into your own. I'd like to hope that he does that, because like I said, I really don't want to see Torment dip out of the scene, but I'll be honest, again, legacy that he has left, this man can do whatever he wants, and I will support him. Torment, you truly were one of the GOATs, and I hate to see you retire, but it is a legacy to leave behind that is well worth having done. Congratulations on a career that was fantastic, and I support you and hope that you have a great time in whatever decision it is next for your career here in esports.